Hey, what's up, you guys? Michael here from the Proper Form Podcast. I've got a good buddy, friend, and colleague here that I'm in a networking group with, Matthew McReynolds. Man, there's a lot we're going to cover. I'm going to try not to get ahead of myself. But, dude, I really appreciate you coming on. We are getting the launch of this podcast going. You've had a birthday, and, man, I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.
Man, appreciate you for having me, man.
Of course.
That's good.
Let's
I'm
do this.
just excited.
I'm excited too.
Yeah,
And
let's go.
well, man, the space, obviously I've shared in a couple other episodes, Michael behind the cameras has been a huge help in setting this up and just making it look beautiful. Really excited to have this space, but I want to dive into a few things that you sent me. I ask every guest to come on to send me is you have kind of given yourself some overviews here of a man of faith, a family man. I'm excited to hear about the family. Entrepreneurial, correct me if I'm wrong here, serial mentee.
Serial mentee.
Okay,
Yeah.
hang tight, we'll get there. Hustler, teacher/coach. So, man, I would love to hear a little bit about your story, your faith, your family, and what brought you here to, you guys reside here in McKinney, Texas, right?
We're actually in Murphy, Texas.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, shout out Murphy.
I did
Murphy's
not know
basically
that.
East Plano.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, kind
gotta hold it
of
down.
between like Lucas Wiley. Am I wrong?
South of Lucas, west of Wiley. My
Wow.
shop is in Wiley, so I drive the 7-minute drive to the shop every day.
I don't know why I thought you were in McKinney.
I'm in McKinney a solid 2 days a week.
Yeah.
I'll come to our group on Thursday, and I'll just post up the whole day. So
Wow.
I try to do all my one-on-ones
Yep.
on Thursdays in McKinney.
Yeah, so everyone understands that. What is that group? Because we could definitely give a shout out to MDNG.
Shout out McKinney Downtown Networking Group.
Yes, the
Golly.
best independent networking group.
Outstanding.
I joined April of 2023, so I'm coming up in almost a full year. And man, I've learned so much. My eyes have been opened so much to the power of networking. I knew about it, of course, but didn't really understand the ripple of just connection and synergy and like-mindedness. I'm sure you've been with it longer. What value have you gained and seen from maybe not necessarily just that group, but other groups that you're a part of?
And that's a great question. So I've been networking for just about as long as I've been in business, and started with Master Networks back in 2017. And it was in Master Networks of Rockwall that I met Savannah Dunn.
Really?
Our chapter founder.
Done deal, done right.
Done deal, done right. Yeah, there you go. Love the plug.
Yeah.
And just the value add from that group and the intentionality that they have in maintaining the integrity, outstanding. And not a lot of groups are about that life of
Totally agree.
actually adding value to every single one of the members and protecting the integrity. So yeah, shout out McKinney
Yeah,
Downtown Networking
for
Group.
sure. And if you are a specialist, not a generalist, and you have a really great niche that you add value in within your work, like come check out the McKinney Downtown Networking Group. We
100%.
only have individuals that hold a specific seat within industries. So like I hold the personal training seat, you hold the
Franchise consulting.
okay. And then so every type of seat. So we want specialists to be a part of that so we can really build an amazing network. And we share every week the amount of referrals, face-to-face, one-on-one meetings. And then we actually share collectively as a group the revenue that has been shared within the group. And last year we reached just over $1 million, which was insane.
And we're way, way ahead of that this year when it comes to tracking. The thing that people don't understand about networking is it's not an immediate return on investment. You're not seeing that ROI immediately. You might have to network for months, if not years. But I've personally had businesses created off of interactions that I've had with other people in that group. And that group specifically, I maintained my membership when I truly didn't even have a seat to sit in because I saw the value of the group.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing.
Yep, for sure. I've enjoyed it. It just where I'm kind of at right now, I've respectfully had to tell myself no to other networking groups, or just to just go out more because I've just focusing got a lot on the plate, as we'll probably discuss a little bit of, but just I've been so grateful to be a part of that group. But man, dude, yeah. So shout out MDNG, come check it out. Love you
Come on,
guys. That wasn't
let's go.
a part of this, but man, I'm glad we give it. So you're in Murphy, you've got a family, beautiful bride, and some crazy little kiddos. Tell me about them.
Yeah, so I met my wife in Illinois.
A little closer.
I went
There you go.
to Wheaton College,
All right.
just outside of Chicago. I was a fifth-year senior. My wife was a freshman. We met on the track team. Yeah, Rob, I was 1 foot out the door, and she was barely in there. And yeah, you know what? We've made it work, and she's amazing. And she caught me in a very special time of my life where I was going down a direction that I had basically gotten punched in the gut. And if I continued to live down this path, I was going to be in some serious trouble.
Yeah.
And it was right after that I met Brooke. And it was almost God's way of giving me grace that I needed in that moment. Like,
Yeah.
you know what? I see you low. You're going to have to do the work to make this comeback, but I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. And yeah, so that was 2013 when we met. We now have 3 beautiful children. My oldest is 6, my middle is 3,
Yeah.
and then my youngest is almost 2.
Do they all have your curly, crazy hair?
They all have their own version of my curly, crazy
Yeah.
hair. So I'm mixed. My mom is African American. My dad is white. My wife is also mixed, but her dad is African American, and her mom is white. So the opposite.
Wow.
And so I am very proud to say that I got
Wow.
some second generation little beautiful mixed babies
Dude.
at the house right
100%.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all have curly, crazy hair. They know they're cute.
Yeah.
They know
And they
they're
use
cute.
that with you,
They
you and
use
Brooke,
it.
right?
God made them cute for a reason because, golly, they're difficult, but I
Yeah.
love them to death.
And it looks like they got a lot of energy just from, being able to interact with you through social media. Like they're all over. How
They're
do
all over.
you keep yourself kind of just in shape, energetic, present
Yeah.
to withstand all of that energy, especially with just the other 5,000 things you're juggling as a dad
Yeah.
and a business
No, it's a
owner?
great question, man. It's all about compartmentalizing the priorities. I heard something a while back, like you always have time for the things that are the most important to you.
For sure.
Off top. It's whether or not you're prioritizing them accurately.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's I need my time. I need to be able to stay fit. I need to be able to have my quiet time, to meditate, to exercise and work out. And I also read something, it was a parenting book or article. You don't necessarily have to give them 24 hours out of the day, but you need to make sure if you only have 60 or 24 minutes out of the day, be 100% in those 24 minutes or 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And so if I can strategically think about my week, how can I plug in to add value to my wife, add value to my kids, be present strategically in specific moments where they can look back and say, oh, dad was around and they have the proof of concept over a long enough time horizon.
Yeah.
And so I've really had to be good about doing that. You think about the analogy of, if you ran a mile a day,
Yep.
how long does it take you to walk a mile? I mean, 20 minutes to walk a mile. Average person can probably jog a mile in 12 to 15. You might have better stats on this just because you're fresher in the industry.
Yeah.
I'm getting
No, you're right.
closer. I'm getting a little faster myself, but if I just do a mile a day, it's 365 miles in a year. It compounds on itself.
Crazy.
My level of fitness comes up.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the family, same with the business, same with anything that you're willing to feed for better, for worse. So
Sure.
I have to be super intentional with that, because I got the wife, the kids,
Yep.
the multiple businesses, and the community that I'm trying to build and be a part of too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's a
just
lot.
that intentionality within those compartmentalizations of work, Brooke, kiddos, your personal time, all of that. Just being intentional with it, being consistent. It's huge. And then, like you said, over time it compounds. You look back. I mean, we just said before we got onto this episode, just the last time that I was actually interviewed on your podcast, of
Yeah.
just what has changed so much since then. And we could all say we have successes and failures. We learn a lot from both, but it's just how we really interpret those and help those past things add value to our present and allow, hopefully, to gain wisdom for the future of the decisions and the things we're doing.
100%.
So,
100%. Pain leads us to our purpose, man.
dude, for sure. So I would love to dive into,
Let's go.
gosh, the entrepreneurial journey. You have quite the resume, the record, the background. Could you share some of that as a franchise consultant, franchisee, the difference between those? I mean,
Yeah.
we're probably speaking your wheelhouse now.
Oh man, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I've always been a hustler minded. When I was a kid, I used to get in trouble because I'd go to school and come back with toys. My
What?
mom would, how do you get these toys? But if you remember, little fruit roll-up wrappers used to
Yeah.
have little coupons on them. You just used to get coupons off the back
Yeah,
of
yeah.
cereal boxes.
What are they
I
called?
would,
Like the box stamps or you know what I'm talking about? Like the ones
golly,
that you could cut
box
off.
stop. That's those. I don't
Yes.
remember what they're called, but yeah,
Those.
those. Yeah, and I would barter and trade, and I was just, would always do what I had to do. In
That's
fifth
where the hustle came
in
from.
fifth grade, I used to make little homemade footballs. I would have brown paper bags. I'd fill them up with sand and rocks, gravel, leaves, duct tape them. Little knockoff Nerf football. Fifth grade, selling them for $3 to $5. You get one drop and it's busted over the
Yeah.
concrete, and then you got to make sure there's no money
Or
back,
one
no
to the
refund.
face and it's a busted
One to
lip.
the face and a busted lip, but those you could rocket those
Dude.
things. Yeah, so I've always had that in me. I allowed that to get me into some trouble in college. I was going the wrong way. Always a hustler. Always saw an opportunity and wanted to take advantage of
Yeah.
it. And didn't always have the best mentors, didn't always have the right mindset. I did not always have a vision for where I was going. And
Yeah.
now, as a consultant for franchising, but also in business in general, I can speak into the dangers in not having a vision with what you're trying to build and the direction that you're going. As we said earlier, whatever you put effort towards is going to compound and is going to grow exponentially. And if your vision's not right, and mine wasn't, so that goes back to, meeting my wife, and grace of God was able to pivot, turn around. My background is in urban education, criminal justice. When I was in college, my favorite book was Gang Leader for a Day. And it was written by a sociologist who was working on his dissertation at the University of Chicago, infiltrated a gang in the south side of Chicago. I lived on the west side. And what he did and how he was able to infiltrate and learn the business side of gang activity, I was so inspired.
Wow.
And I loved it, and I wanted to be that. So I spent the first 2 years after graduating from Wheaton College on the west side at a school, pretty rough area, and then eventually moved to South Dallas, where I did the same thing. And it was around that time that my dad worked at Apple Computer for 22 years, was looking into retirement. Never did anything entrepreneurial that I know of in the last probably 20, 30 years. I'm sure he had things when he was younger that he worked on,
Yeah.
but he was living that corporate life, that 9 to 5, had built up a pretty good little nest egg for himself. But he saw the people that he came in with and the people that were around him, and especially the people that came in before him, looked around one day, they're all gone. And he's starting to see change happening that he doesn't like. And for the first time in a long time, the quote unquote security that he was seeing from having a 9 to 5 was starting to evaporate. And so he decided he wanted to take fate into his own hands, and he started looking into franchising. He didn't have a guide. He didn't have anybody kind of showing him the way, but he came upon a couple different concepts, and he's a smart guy. He did a lot of his own research, found Mosquito Joe, and they had territory available in Waco, Texas, and a few territories available in DFW. I was living in Carrollton at the time, working in South Dallas, but I was building up my own. My business was Hero Athletics. And so teach, train, build. So I would come in and help kids of all ages, specifically high school kids, do personal training. I would do SAT, ACT tutoring, and I would do life coaching. That was my hustle at the time.
Wow.
Hero Athletics, teach, train, build.
Cool.
And he had saw that, created Hero Unlimited LLC, bought into Mosquito Joe, and said, "Hey, do you wanna join me in this thing?"
So he did that without asking you.
He did it. He did not ask me about if I want. He was going to go down this path. When he was probably 40 to 60% launched, that's when he brought me in. And just for context,
That's cool.
I married Brooke March 12th, 2016.
Okay.
He flies the two of us to Virginia Beach for corporate mosquito joe training March 13th,
Yes.
2016.
Okay.
And we spend the next week at corporate training, and then we come back and our business is launched. So we're recently married, and now we're business partners. And my dad, business partners with my dad, but working the day-to-day of the business with my wife in a brand new business. And we had my dad put
Brand new
100,000,
marriage.
brand new marriage. He put $100,000 in a bank account and said, go.
What? So I knew
No idea what I'm doing.
I knew your story from when you shared your spotlight at our networking group about you guys getting married and then flying out, but I didn't know all of that behind it. That's wild. How did she feel about that?
She at the time was
until death do us part, right?
gung ho, was motivated.
Really?
A little scared, but she knew what she was getting into whenever she married me. Because even as I was working at those schools, I always had side hustles.
Something.
When I initially moved to Dallas, I didn't have the job set up yet. So I took a job in sales at a call center where it was my job to make 200 dials a day, just on the phone, 200 dials a day. I loved the team, still have friends that were from that chapter of my life. Hated that job. It was the typical, like, you dread Sunday because you know you got to. I would have dreams of cold calling and then wake up and then have to go cold call and was just in a very bad mental place. Wow. I left that after 7 months, and that's when I did the site management for a kids sports company. I worked for an organization that did SAT, ACT tutoring. I coached track and football at Prestonwood Christian Academy, and I worked at a gym. Like all of these hustles that I was doing, which then I spun into, so she knew what she was getting into. So to have something that was stable and set and a blueprint that we could just go down, initially she was excited about it. That's changed and evolved over the course of our, going on year 9 in entrepreneurship.
That's crazy. Well, I'd love to touch more on that. I want to pause there for a little bit because I know there's gonna be a lot more to share. I do want to go back to one thing that you said that kind of stuck with me was the hustle, the drive you always had, but it wasn't always steered in the right way. You shared some of your previous experience through school and whatever those may or may not have been that maybe weren't the best route, best path to choose. But then you also just shared that, I mean, what you did through kids. I mean, you're pouring into those young students, being a coach and a mentor, probably maybe seeing your younger self through them a little bit and trying to share a lot of your past with them to choose a better path.
100%.
And you had the fork in the road. You chose to go and be a hero for these younger kids. So how could you add value to like share someone that's at a fork or is down a path that they may not, maybe one isn't a passion that they truly have and they're doing the cold calling like you were, or two, they just know it's not going to feed their soul well long term.
Yeah, no, that's a phenomenal question. I think for me, it was coming to terms with, if it is to be, it's up to me. And I either can or I can't reach what I desire, what I truly want for myself. And it's all based on what I believe and what my self-beliefs are. And I had to make a decision to put in the work, own up to, and I talk about this on my podcast, we all have the ability to achieve what we want, or we have the ability to level up with the resources that we have around us. It doesn't matter where we start, acknowledging that we all start in different places. But if I want to get better, if I want the 1% every day, I have to take advantage of what I have. And I realized I was in too good of a situation. I had been blessed in too many areas. I had people that I had come up with that there was no difference between me and them. I just got lucky. You know how many times I almost got arrested and I just didn't? Like more than one hand. I won't give you the second, but more than one. Like there were some times.
Yeah.
And I couldn't attest that to anything but the grace of God and the blessings that I did have to my benefit, the education that I had. A lot of stuff that happens in these inner cities with especially younger kids is they don't have that guiding force, that guiding direction. Yeah. With me, I chose which path to go down, and it was more of an identity thing for me. Being mixed and growing up in a very diverse area, my white friends, I was the black guy. My black friends, I was the white guy. That messed with me at 12.
Wow.
at 15, you know? So by the time I'm 22, I'm living, and it's become a habit
Yeah.
to like make this choice instead of the right one. And I was reading a book recently, God is My CEO. What is the easiest wrong decision that you can make in any given trial? What is the easiest wrong decision? And you think about it, it's like, if I know I got to talk to this employee and I got to confront them and be confrontational and kill them with kindness in this moment because I can't just be nice. What's the easiest wrong thing to do? Not talk to them and let it go on. And when that compounds over time, you lead yourself in a bad spot. And me at 22, 23 was given a very clear ultimatum: either figure this out or don't. And it's going to be on you either way.
Yep.
And so for me, after that moment, it was a no-brainer that I have the opportunity to add value.
Yep.
And I'm not right now. I'm always going to be an influential person. How am I leading people?
Yep.
And that was what I had to be honest about with myself. And that was super convicting. And there's been the one area I'll give myself credit is there's been very strong key areas and key moments in my life where I've had these hard ultimatums. And so far I've chosen all right. And I can see the value of that and how it plays into what I'm trying to build now.
Yeah. That's good, dude. That's really good. You said the easiest wrong decision.
I think that's how he says it in the book. Yeah, God is my CEO.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's things every day in that sense, like, you know, even just practically for us, like knowing I shouldn't grab the leftover food on my kid's plate. I don't need to eat that.
I don't need those carbs.
Yeah, it could be small, innocent decisions like that, but all of those, like you said, go back to what we just discussed, compound over time. Where that could be grabbing another drink that I don't need to drink, or staying out another hour that I really don't need to be out, or staying up and watching another episode of a show when really I know I need to go to bed because I want to get good quality sleep so I can be efficient for the duties I need to be upheld to tomorrow.
Spending that extra 50 minutes with your coworkers after hours when maybe you don't need to. You got to go home and hang out with those kids.
Yeah. For sure, man, that is very, very good. I think it adds a different perspective on just being intentional with the things that we really know we want to do and what we want to be and where we want to go, but just like, oh, I'll just get to it tomorrow. Or, man, it's all right if I don't do it right now. Like, the only person that's holding accountable is me. But even just on a deeper level with that, like just the self-respect, maybe, if that's the right word, of like, man, I want to be the best me for me first, and really uphold myself to a standard and respect myself and my decisions in my mind. You know, like if I'm constantly letting myself down and I'm being this negative person in my own head, that's not going to really probably come out very fruitful either, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I speak on this on a lot of the content that I put out, specifically within my context in helping people become entrepreneurs. Just because you have a bad boss does not make it, 100% that you're going to be a better boss to yourself than your previous boss was. A lot of people become entrepreneurs, or they look at franchising because they want to escape a bad boss, but what they find out is they're very poor bosses to themselves, and it feeds into their lack of vision, their lack of discipline, but what you're talking about, their lack of positive affirmation and self-belief and the ability to hold themselves accountable. 'Cause it's so easy to tell ourselves those lies. And to tell us, oh, it's not that big of a deal.
100%. That's so good. Well, man, I know you had Mosquito Joe's. You guys just go all in there. Shout out to Pops for just that
Shout out Pops.
wild
Old
ride.
Grumps, man. Yeah,
So
shout out Grumps.
tell me a little bit about that journey with Mosquito Joe's. Did you end up acquiring or getting some more franchises? And then when you made the switch to then also becoming a franchise consultant, because again, I shared this in an earlier episode with Jonathan, is that like you could have just stayed in your lane, like you didn't have to add additional value. You don't have to start Streetwise, your podcast as well, and all these other things. So what led you to continue to elevate and level up in that way?
I'll say life would be way easier and I would be making more today in the immediate if I would have stayed in my lane. 100%.
Mm.
There's a lot of extra obstacles that I am putting myself through, but it's all for the level up. I mean, just to answer it simply, it's all for the level up. In Mosquito Joe, I had a college degree when we started. I was working in my field that I was passionate about, and then now here I am. It's 105 degrees outside, and I just got off the phone with a customer who was upset about me, and now I got to go spray another house, and then I got to finish the route, and then go respond to emails, and then go to the networking group. What am I doing? But there was a turning point in realizing, like, oh wait, no, I am truly building this business. I read the E Myth, and it was like, okay, technician, manager, true entrepreneur looks like this. I got to build a team, and my mindset shifted, and we built the team. We expanded territory. We've sold some territory, and we're looking to mold that business and mold that franchise into something that truly benefits us and our household and our legacy. And I speak on this too. It's not about the widget. It's how the widget plays into your vision, right? And so we made that shift in the summer of 22. My daughter was born, and I took about 6 weeks off. And it was during that time that I was hustling in the day to day. We had a team. We were running and gunning. I was leading the charge. And I was introduced to, during my time off, EOS and rocket fuel, traction, Gino Wickman, all that stuff, and learned about the difference between integrator and visionary, and how I'm a visionary sitting in the integrator role, and I'm consistently making the business about me. I was also learning about franchising at a higher level, and becoming a consultant was, again, all about the level up, because if I can go from being a single brand, multi-unit franchisee to now placing people in franchises, now that's the extra stage. Like, God put me here for a reason. Let's go. If I have an opportunity, let's go. So it was a lot of research. It took me probably from that moment, I mean, it took me over a year to actually, maybe a year and a half, to become a franchise consultant.
Wow.
Going through different broker networks and figuring out what worked for me, while at the same time adding a second brand. And that's been a wild
And a
journey in and of
third
itself.
kiddo.
And a third, yeah. And it's all been wild. And there's a mix of, I can look back, hindsight 2020, I would have ordered things much differently. But as I'm talking to my candidates now, people that are looking for businesses, I can speak into them at a level that I couldn't have if I hadn't walked down this path. And again, I know I'm almost being redundant at this point, but in adding the second brand, I had a very clear goal. But the goal, in solving the goal and adding the second brand, yes, it could potentially do this, but what is it going to do for me down a longer time horizon?
Yeah.
Like, am I creating additional problems, or am I not seeing the blind spots? Am I adding additional struggles in adding these things? And so, we're building the team, and it's a fight right now every single day, but we have a really solid team that believes in what we're doing. Because when you build a team, it's all about, you got to have a vision, and you got to make sure the individuals on your team understand. They don't have to fully get it, but they got to rock with it.
Yeah.
They got to be able to run with it. And so we've been really good at that. And that's helped us during this time, because it is a fight right now. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's super cool. I know you said maybe if you could go back and orchestrate it a little differently, that might change, but praise God for the way that he's orchestrated it. I think you would probably agree to that. And you've been able to attest and add relatable value to people you're having conversations with as you consult and add coaching and add discernment. Could you share a little bit more kind of what that process looks like? If I'm coming to you, I'm sure you're probably, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong here, getting people that are almost going through maybe a quote, midlife crisis, or just I need a change, or like you said, I'm going to leave this job and I've got this vision to go
sort
do
of
something.
transition.
So they're probably coming to you with some sort of energy and just excitement, and not to say that you're going to buzzkill them, but you are going to offer some sobriety and reality. Could you share a little bit of that?
Man, No, you hit that right on the head. When somebody comes and talks to me, I'm not going to try to talk them into it. I'm not going to try to talk them out of it. I'm going to show them
Yeah.
the fire that they're about to walk into. And I can speak into the benefits of what's on the other side of that fire and what happens if you just turn around right now. This is what you can expect in your life, and it'll probably be very similar to what you just came from because you're going right back to it. If you choose to go down this path, you better be ready. You better buckle up.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of resources, Extreme Ownership by Jocko, Willink, and Leif Babin. Man, get ready. Read that, then read their second book, Dichotomy of Leadership. And if you notice, like, I didn't have this background in business, but I'm a student. I'm a student of the game. I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
That's the serial mentee. I'm always looking to be mentored and to learn, and it doesn't stop.
Nice.
So I have those resources, not just on paper in the form of, handing somebody a book,
Yeah.
but I've lived it. And today, my birthday, March 5th, shout out,
Yeah,
34,
let's go.
34 years old. But I've been in the game for, 9 years in franchising, right? This is season number 9. But I've been doing the hustle thing for a while.
Yeah.
And
Since fifth grader when you were 5.
a while back. It's been a while. So being able to show people, because in franchising, this is a thing that I don't like. It's really the wild, wild west. If I pulled at random 10 franchisees in our local community, probably 6 or 7 of them are upset with their life, their decision, the brand. A lot of it's,
So specifically, this is the person that has purchased a
somebody
franchise.
that's already purchased
That's
a
the franchisee.
franchise that is currently a franchisee. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
They're the franchisee. They're the franchise business owner. The majority of these guys are not happy. And I don't want that. I love this industry.
Yeah.
It's helped me become who I am today. I believe in it. Now, I've also experienced the negatives of it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. We shouldn't have bought what we bought at the time and the scale that we bought it. We would have been so much better sticking into a lane, right? That's where I come in. I can advise. I can break down what's your mindset, but also what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What type of team do you want to run? What do you want your day-to-day to look like? Oh, you want to run a gym because you love fitness. Do you know what it's like to manage trainers? Do you know what it's like to, when somebody calls in, do you know the hours that actually go into running a gym successfully, the type of marketing? To speak into those things, and not that I have the answers, but I'll direct them.
I might have a couple of those.
Yeah. Help them ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And it's all based on my experience.
Okay, so I got this picture that kind of just came to my mind was like a picture of almost a pie chart. If I broke it up into 3 pieces, these pieces might be bigger or smaller based off of where some of the, let's call it blame or lack thereof could go. So if I got the franchisee, the franchisor, who's if I'm buying the franchise, it's that brand and that identity,
The
right?
parent company, the business that was franchised.
And then maybe the third piece of that pie is a consultant or the lack of a consultant.
Sure.
So where would you say like that, if it's split into thirds and really maybe it's the franchisee's 60% fault because they never knew they could even hire a franchise consultant, and then they just kind of took the franchisor's word for everything he said, and then actually realized when he got in, like, wow, this is not what he told me it was going to be like. How would you say the people that are very successful within franchising, how does their pie look? Someone that is struggling, how does their pie look?
Man, I'll say this, because that is a tough question to answer. Yeah. But I'll say this, it always starts at the top. And that's why I like the book Extreme Ownership, because no matter what, you got 2 thumbs, they come back to yourself. And everybody involved in the situation, when it goes bad, can acknowledge that there was probably something done wrong, because not everybody is built for franchising.
Yeah.
Not everybody should be a franchise owner. It takes a very specific avatar to be successful. But the problem is you've got franchisees that don't want to take ownership when it goes bad. They don't want to do the extra work when they don't own a brand yet. They don't do the validation. They don't ask the right questions. They get really excited, and they also max out their financial input level. So they use every dollar that they have, so they don't have working capital to sustain the launch. That's them. Yeah. The consultant, man, it does not take but a job title on LinkedIn to say that you're a franchise consultant. There is no true certification. There's no true validation. That's why it's so important that you work with somebody that you know, like, and trust.
Oh yeah.
When you
Interesting.
when you decide on a consultant, I work for free. I get paid a commission if I'm working with you and I point you in the direction of a brand. The brand will pay me a commission when you spend your money on the franchise fee. The consultant gets a commission of that. So I don't get paid anything from you directly. Yeah. But the problem is certain brands offer different levels of commissions, right? So if I don't have my stuff in check and integrity is not important to me, I could very easily spend somebody to, and so that's on the consultant.
Yeah.
The parent company, there's a lot. You got the development reps that if they're not on point and turning people away, they'll bring somebody in that maybe they got the money, but they're not the right culture fit. I'll say this. There are some brands that do it really well, and they turn more people away than they, quote unquote, award franchising. That's the term. It's you get awarded. You're not sold a franchise. You're awarded a franchise. And when that's not done with integrity and not done intentionally, that's where things go south on the franchisor side. Now, do some brands have false, setups and structures? That can definitely happen. But again, you got to make sure that you're doing your validation. Talk to as many franchisees in a system as possible. Look at more than one.
Yeah.
Work with somebody that you can trust and go all into the process.
That's really good.
And that's how I walk people through it now.
That's cool. So do you, also in a way, maybe create your portfolio of known brands and so and then are you connecting with them to say, hey, I'm a franchise consultant, like I would love to get to know more about your brand. Do you kind of have a contractual agreement on commission structures? Obviously they might have the final say,
so that's a great,
it's gonna make you more polished and kind of known in the sense of like if you just have a niche and someone comes, you're like, oh well, I don't do that specific type.
Sure. No, that's a good question. So I work under, and most franchise consultants are going to fall under some sort of a broker network, and there's some pretty well-known broker networks across the country. I'm a part of FranChoice. FranChoice, man, I picked FranChoice because they were referred to me as one of the best. And I have not seen anything to counter that belief. The people at FranChoice are awesome. And it took me almost 8 months to get in. I got denied so many times because I didn't have experience as a consultant. I didn't have experience in development. I was told, go work for Neighborly, go work for Empower Brands, go work for Fran DevCo, get experience as a developer, then come over here because that's what most people do. I'm the second youngest consultant by a couple months in FranChoice.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many are there?
About 80 of us.
Sweet.
Maybe 90. Other groups have a couple hundred, a couple thousand. But I was just at my first convention a couple months ago, and these brands will come in and say 40%, 50% of our lead flow comes from FranChoice.
Wow.
So FranChoice is a legit organization. Look it up.
Cool.
But FranChoice has the contracts with the franchise companies to make sure that I never have to worry about if I directed a candidate, that candidate is going to get taken care of because I am with FranChoice.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So there's maybe 4,000 franchise brands that are out there. We work with and there's 300 come in every year, 300 go out every year. It is definitely a rotating industry. We work with about 300 to 400 on a rolling basis. And the directors and the people on staff at FranChoice have told us in training, like we hurt brands if they're not ready, because once it gets turned on, once the flip gets switched and you have the FranChoice consultants going out and directing candidates in a direction, your system better be prepared to handle our lead flow. What happens is a franchise brand, and this is where franchisors go wrong, they will sell it out the wazoo. But it's not about sold locations. It's about open locations, happy and profitable franchisees. You'll hear terms like semi-absentee. This is a fast-selling brand. They got a lot of support. New tech, broken industry, sells out across the country. A year goes by, 2 years go by. How many of those are actually open?
Yeah.
Right? And so those are things that you gotta really look out for.
Wow. That's very interesting. I love that you're a part of that bigger group. A lot of that kind of bigger picture, maybe the commission contractual things are kind of assisted with the bigger party of the group you're a part of. And also shows just the value to you of wanting to be a part of not reinventing the wheel, not saying that you know it all, but being a part of a team that I'm sure you're probably learning from and connecting with, a lot of those other consultants within your
I've had
group.
4 consultants on my podcast. These are guys that have been in the game for 20 plus years. And some of the best. I had Kim Daly on, the Daily Coach. Look her up on YouTube.
Yeah.
She is one of the top performing franchise consultants in the country. And she was on my podcast. And I was asked, why do you want, they're going to take your thunder. It's like, no, that's not the point. The point of me interviewing them and creating content with them is it's validating for me that they would spend their time with somebody like me. And
awesome.
I am leveling up 100% every single time. You think I'm not listening to this episode as I edit it and cut it up? Like, I'm taking notes on this thing. And it's absolutely amazing. So Franchoice gave me the opportunity to be the serial mentee that I know myself because I know myself now. And that was a thing too in my development. And I speak on know thyself. Yeah. Assessments are huge. I'm big on that. And they let me build out my own brand, Streetwise.
Okay.
A part of in my pitch to get myself in was, listen, I already have a platform that I'm going to be building. I already know what it's going to look like. Yeah, it's not polished. Yeah, it's fresh, but it's going to work. And it was just refining that over the 8 to 9 months before I finally got the green light.
Yeah, that's funny. So I was actually going to ask you, just kind of as you pursue next chapters of life, kids getting older, settled into a home, sitting back doing nothing. I know that's definitely not you. But how do you foresee these next chapters, these next 3 to 5, 10 years being? Do you see yourself really diving deeper into your franchise consultant role? Do you see yourself continuing to be an investor? I don't know if that's the right word, into franchises and kind of, but taking maybe a not as day-to-day in, like what does that look like for you?
It's a good question, and it could change. Let me just preface, because my wife will watch this, and so it will change. It could change.
She's like, Matthew,
you said on this podcast, I have it timestamped. Now, the plan for what we're doing now is to add brands through vertical integration. I want to build a team that is super successful at operating different franchise brands. The reason I went with Groovy Hughes, the paint and power wash concept, was because it was in home services. And at the time, I truly believed in what the parent company was building. I loved their passion behind empire builders. And it just fit. And they had EOS kind of involved in their training. So that's why I picked that brand. But if I can have an operating team, it doesn't matter what brand we are operating under. But with the franchise system, if my team is, if I've got my integrator, if you think about the accountability chart in EOS, if I have every seat filled, and then for my operations, brand managers for every single brand that I run, or regional directors, whatever you want to title it, that's where the business side is going. I think when I realized that I am the visionary, I tested pretty good. If you're familiar with EOS, they have the crystallizer assessment. And it tells you, are you a visionary or an integrator or neither? Or are you both, which is super rare. I tested like 91 as visionary and like 78 as integrator. So I'm okay. If you can do over a 70, you can technically fill the role. I could be a good integrator for you. If you need it. If you had a good vision and I could hop on and run through a wall for you, I could integrate for you. You wouldn't want me because we're also visionaries, and so it would have to be like pure integrator. But as soon as I identified as the visionary, it was, all right, how do I replace myself and build the most amazing team possible? The dream is for my day-to-day to be in Streetwise and everything that is Streetwise, the brand of Streetwise, which right now the big push is franchise consulting. I love it. I love it. I love the idea of it. I love that I can add I feel like, I laugh about this. I feel like I'm Sean Evans, the Hot Wings guy. I'm like a mix of Sean Evans, Post Malone, and the there's a girl named Bobby all something, maybe voice edit so I say her name right, that those three avatars is like what I'm doing to franchising and what I'm doing with my content, and I love it. I think eventually it could spin to a much bigger like media platform. It could spin to trainings.
Yeah.
Who knows? But that's where a lot of what I'm not the best integrator. I'm not the best manager. I could do it.
Okay.
I've done it. I've been doing it for years. But if I'm going to truly build my vision, I need people who are better than me at those things so we can actually build it to be bigger than me.
Yeah.
And that's everything.
So to make sure I got this right, because I vision that I feel like God gave me about a year ago was kind of like a root system of, I want to build a brand, but I want to build brands within that brand. And that's, the roles, regionals, that could all be a similar analogy for you. So as a streetwise franchising is going to have franchises as the years continue to grow and have directors within those franchises.
So I've got, to be specific, I have Streetwise Property Heroes that will be over any home service brand. I have Streetwise Holdings that's over the top of that. Yes. I have a couple other LLCs that we could strategically put brands in depending on what they are. My wife and I have a really big passion, mainly my wife, but I am fully behind it because we lost our daughter in 2019. My wife was 38 weeks pregnant, lost her. Still don't really know how or why that happened, and it put us in a dark place. But through that process, my wife has completely revolutionized and changed the way that she eats, the way that she lives, and her mindset on the value that she can add. I said this early. Pain leads us to our passion. Pain leads us to our purpose.
Yeah.
Pain leads us to our purpose. Passion is like what gets us riled up, like what lights the fire inside of us. Purpose is what comes out of that, and pain leads us to purpose. And so through that, my wife has some passion ideas and things that she wants to build and walk down that path. So we have a couple other LLCs that could facilitate that.
Yeah, and making sure that those obviously align with the purpose.
Yeah, it's got to be in line with the purpose, 100%.
That's super cool. Well, man, that's exciting. I'm excited to just continue to be an audience, to see it and see you continue to grow.
We're either going to build it huge or burn all the way out, man. But we're going to fight every single day.
That's for sure. No plan B, only plan A.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love how you're continuing to grow. I mean, it just goes back to what you said, that the teacher versus the coach, or the student and the teacher. You should and you are a walking representation of being both. I mean, you have
to be
in the battlefield, learning, running franchising, starting new franchises, not just being comfortable with ones that you already know, and even ones that are in completely different fields, which is also a testament. And then you're also taking a lot of that value and wisdom and trials, tribulations, successes, and then adding so much value for up-and-coming franchisees.
Both, but yes, I work more directly with the franchisees now, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and helping consult that process for them. And again, adding a lot of sobriety and reality to just what that process looks like, what walking through the fire looks like. And that's super cool. I know you briefly touched on a little bit of the serial mentee.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more on that?
So, I mean, it is what it sounds like. You've got mentees, you've got mentors. I want to be a serial mentee. And again, the term serial entrepreneur, like I'm always adding, buying, selling businesses. I want to always be leveraging the people and the resources that I have around me to level up. The whole concept of Streetwise is I'm going to use what I got in this room right here. How do I play it to my advantage? Well, I've also read, I'm going to forget the name of the title now, but a lot of books about the importance of giving and being somebody who adds value to others. So that right there just puts raises the elevation of the room that I'm in, right? How can I gain value in this room, and how can I get into better rooms? And then when I'm in the better rooms, do I open the door and bring more people with me? Or how can I gain influence in this room with this platform? And that's what being a serial mentee is all about to me, man. How can I always learn? How can I always give? I mean, it's a biblical principle of having, Barnabas, Paul, Timothy, right? Like being the Paul in the middle where I'm being mentored to, but I'm turning around and giving that value to somebody
100%.
else. One of the things I learned as a teacher is you don't truly know a subject until you can teach it to somebody else.
Mm.
I wish I knew that as a student because I would have been a
Yeah.
better student.
Yeah, I wrote down, I loved kind of what you said and added a little bit to it. Gain value by giving value.
Yeah. The Go-Giver. That's the
Yeah,
name of the
the
book.
co-giver. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. Well, man, I really like the serial mentee and just, that can be connotated in so many different ways. But again, then just going back to your story and kind of your fork in the road of choosing, just better for yourself and better for your future family and your kids. I mean, it's super cool. If you could go back to that young Matthew, and that's just in that hustle, that's in the grind, that's kind of making some interesting decisions, what would you tell him?
Man, I would ask a lot of questions, I think. Like, where are you going? What do you think is going to happen if you do that? Or what do you think could happen if you stop doing that and put that same amount of time over here?
Mm.
Why are you so mad?
Ooh.
Like, why does it matter what they think or how you're presenting yourself to them? Why? I think you can always tell the caliber of somebody's potential by the level of questions that they ask,
Mm.
right? And there's this whole thing of like, I'm a big like Marvel anime fan, and
Yeah.
this whole time travel thing, and the butterfly effect. And
Yep.
I don't know if I would want to give too much to young Matthew, but I think if I could have directed his vision a little bit better, I had every opportunity in the world, but I had no vision.
Yep.
The fact that I'm 34 years old right now, I used to joke about not knowing if I'd make it past 33.
Wow.
Even when I turned 33, it was like, man, this is my Jesus year. Like I'm going all in
go.
this year. Let's go. Do it big. WWJD.
That's hilarious.
And it's just crazy. Like I truly didn't have a vision at 18, 26
Yeah.
of what life would look like at 45. And because I didn't, it's such an uphill battle at 34 that, man, I could have everything hockey sticks. I could have been so much higher on the hockey stick if I would have started this earlier. So I couldn't have told 22-year-old Matthew nothing.
Yeah.
22-year-old Matthew needed to get punched in the gut.
Huh.
Needed it.
Dang.
Needed it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have met my family, wouldn't have met my wife,
Yep.
wouldn't have the beautiful kids that I have now if that didn't happen. So
Yep.
do I want it to change? Nah, but maybe I could have put the accelerator on a little bit faster. Maybe I couldn't have lingered
Yeah.
as long as I did. I could have chosen just
Yeah.
went with it.
Yeah.
I might have like 6 kids if I did that, though. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows, man? Dude, I think for us, I think we align in our beliefs, and I think that's honestly just like the story of the gospel,
Yeah.
and it's a choice that we have to make to want to have the relationship, and that goes also into just our day to day with the decisions that we choose to do, and God wants us to align with Him, and of course, but like He's also gonna let us fail and let us take some punches to realize how much we need His path rather than ours. And yeah, we can look back, and yeah, even as I get older, I try to not use the word regret as much as just lesson or just a milestone, or like, man, praise God it wasn't worse.
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
where there may not be a Michael or a Matthew here, because I'm sure there's probably situations we could share even more in depth on that. But man, it's very interesting just to see how chapters and leveling and just life decisions get us to where we are now. And even as you shared what 45 might look like I think you and I could probably both create maybe a little bit more of a clear idea of what that might be, but it's still so unknown. I
Yeah.
mean, think of what has happened over the past 5 years of you adding 3 little minions to your crew,
Yeah.
and how much that's rocked your world in so many amazing ways.
Yeah.
Like, what's 5 or 10 more going to look like with those little monsters?
Yeah.
And same for me. And so super excited for it. Also nervous, but just trusting and just the passion and the purposes that we have, pursuing those passions with the purpose and putting in the work and just believing that like God's going to do the rest.
Amen, brother.
So, man, I want to wrap this up, and I know we've gone through a lot and some questions that we went over. One last thing I wanted to ask you is, based off of who you are, what you've become, and where you're going, what are a few key points or takeaways that you feel could add value to the listeners? I know hopefully they got a lot of out of this
Man,
already, but
yeah. You have what you need where you are right now. You already got it.
Mm.
You just got to take advantage of it. You got it. Maybe you don't see it. You got to
Yeah.
look. Closed mouths don't get fed. So as soon as you see it and acknowledge it, take it and do not wait. Do not give yourself any excuse. Second, I'll say you're either getting better or you're getting worse. So as soon as you see it, if you don't take the step, you need to acknowledge that you're choosing to miss out exponentially on the potential that you have and what's accessible
mm,
to you.
dude,
And lastly, and seek to add value to others because you truly get so much more when you can give. And that's a Zig Ziglar concept. That's a
yeah,
biblical concept.
yeah,
Successful speakers speak on that all the time. If you
yeah,
can give more, seek to give, even as practically as going to networking groups. Stop selling when you go to networking groups.
yeah,
Look to add value to folks. And
100%.
man, it's going to pay off. It's
Yeah,
going to pay off. You're one relationship away, man.
yeah,
Just one relationship away from changing the
yes,
game.
yeah.
Changing the game.
That's so
So
good.
if you could write that down, man, write that down.
Yeah, well, I'm like you said, I'm gonna listen back to this and just re-listen to this whole thing so I can listen to this
It's
last
fun being
part.
on this
But
side, man. It's
yeah,
fun. You did a good job.
hey,
This was
thanks, dude. I
fun. I
really
appreciate
appreciate it.
this. Yeah.
Seriously, thank you for coming on. To wrap up here, where can people find you?
Man, we got the Streetwise podcast
Okay,
on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all the places. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm
cool,
very intentional on LinkedIn with
sweet.
putting out Matthew McReynolds content every day, just trying to again add value and just be
Yep.
real. There's so much fake and posturing out there. Man, I'm gonna talk about my failures way
Yeah,
more than I'm gonna talk about my success. You'll see
nice.
my success.
Yep,
Trust me, you'll see it.
nice.
But I'm gonna talk about and be real about the failures and what it took to get there. So yeah, holler at me.
Awesome. That's great, dude. Well, hey, check him out on LinkedIn. Check him out on the Streetwise podcast. See
Streetwise.
him on Streetwise franchising. Continue to see his growth as he consults. I'm excited to watch the journey, see you grow, see your family grow. Y'all look out for this episode number 4 coming out soon. Thank you guys for joining us on the Proper Form podcast.
Let's go.